Hello everyone. As we felt the need of accurate and complete tutorials for MacBook repairing,
آموزش کامل و جامع برای تعمیرات لپتاپ‌های شرکت اپل احساس می‌شد.
and as our members in dr-bios.com have requested for them,
دکتر بایوس داشتن.
we decided to work on these series as well,
تلاش کنیم این قسمت رو هم بهش
and hope they draw your attention.
امیدوار باشیم که همکاران و دوستان عزیز از سایت دکتر بایوس رضایت خاطرشون جلب بشه.
I am Hossein Asadollahi
حسین اسداللهی هستم.
from technical team of dr-bios.com. After a long absence, I've come back to be at your service,
که در خدمت شما عزیزان باشم.
and I'll try to prefer the practical usage over the academic aspect in all my videos.
جنبه کاربردی بودن رو به آکادمیک بودن ترجیح بدم.
Hope you enjoy them. Smiley face. As Apple has less product variety compared to other laptop brands,
باقی شرکت‌های ساخت و طراحی لپتاپ‌ها تنوع محصولی کمتری داره.
their circuits can be analyzed easier
محصولات رو آنالیز کرد.
and realize that they are not very different in terms of designing.
کلیت طراحی نداره.
So according to this point, I'll use one product schematic in the first video to tell you general things about schematic and how to use it.
کلیات شماتیک و نحوه استفاده از اون رو بگم.
Also show you how to work with board view. And in the next videos, I'll completely analyze parts of circuits. As I said, I'll explain through schematic. Apple MacBook Air, A1466. And motherboard model is 823-209A. Because it has almost all blocks on the schematic. So I should mention that the blocks I'll talk about in this video might not exist on all schematics. For example, block diagram might be in one schematic of a device, meaning this part, while it doesn't exist in another one. So I chose this device as it includes all blocks. The software I use for reading PDF files is Foxit Reader software, which is free and I can easily work with it. Also, it has a more user-friendly search environment. First, let me give some information for those who start from the beginning. What is schematic? Schematic is like a city map, in which every single small detail is drawn there: alleys, streets, traffic signs. All stores, houses, organizations, or even sunshades. In schematics you can see how each circuit works with other circuits, and how they communicate with each other. For example, how the device's battery connects to the device, and how they communicate. Schematic files of MacBook devices include pages such as table of contents, system block diagram, BOM configuration, which I'll explain from the first page, which as you see as table of contents page. This table is called paging, which shows you how to find each part on the pages. It also shows when this schematic file is made or updated. I need to mention an important note. You might have noticed that outer sides of all the pages are divided by lines, which are specified by numbers or letters. What are these parts? These divisions are for finding the exact location of the components. Let's find the exact location of a component in this schematic. For example, C2602. It's on page 24, D7, which means you can find C2602 capacitor in D7 part of page 24.
C2602 هست رو پیدا کنیم.
So it's divided for that purpose.
تقسیم بندی شده.
And it makes it easier to give addresses in schematic.
کار ما رو توی آدرس‌دهی تو شماتیک راحت‌تر می‌کنه.
The next page that might not be available in all schematics,
تمام شماتیک‌ها موجود نباشه.
but is a very important one as block diagram page.
صفحه بلوک دیاگرامه.
It shows us from what components and circuits the device is made of,
این سیستم از چه اجزایی تشکیل شده.
and how they communicate with each other.
چگونه با یکدیگر ارتباط برقرار.
In other words, it's a map that shows the communication of different components. For example, as you see on the schematic, the CPU of this device is Intel Ivy Bridge, or you can see that the screen gets its data from CPU directly.
صفحه نمایش ما اطلاعاتشو مستقیما از CPU میگیره.
Or you can realize the device has 2 DDR3 RAM slots.
دو اسلات رم از نوع DDR3 هستش.
Which has direct connections with CPU. In block diagram, you can see that, on which page each component is analyzed. And the page of each component is written under it. And you can see the connections. For example, as you see, CPU communicates with PCH in two ways, which are FDI and DMI. But I should say that the pages mentioned under each component on block diagram might be inaccurate, because the pages gets corrected when the schematic files are updated. And it's better to check the first page to find the page related to each component. Now let's talk about communications. It is different among different components, and it has different types. I can analogize it like this. Some speak English, some speak Persian, some speak Turkish. I'll tell you some of these communications. I'll explain them and their differences in details later.
Hello everyone, today I'm excited to introduce you to Finti, game-changing accounting software designed for businesses like yours. Whether you're running a repair shop, a retail store, or any service-oriented business, Finti is here to revolutionize how you manage your finances and operations. Join me as we explore the key features that make Finti the go-to solution for small to medium-sized businesses. Efficient repair shop management. Let's begin with repair shop management. Finti allows you to seamlessly handle device repairs. Imagine printing receipts with just a click or sending eco-friendly text messages to your clients automatically. No more hassle, just efficient and organized repair shop management. Invoices and financial transactions. Creating invoices and tracking financial transactions have never been easier. Whether you're issuing receipts or managing expenses, Finti simplifies the process. Plus, if your team works on commissions, Finti's got you covered. Set commission percentages effortlessly and let the software handle the calculations, providing you with detailed reports. User-friendly tutorials. Now let's talk about how to use Finti. Finti is designed with you in mind. Accessing tutorial videos is just a click away. Whenever you have a question or need guidance, simply click on the red icons within the software to watch related tutorial videos. And if you need assistance, feel free to reach out to our support team. They are ready and eager to help you whenever you need. Online accessibility and global currency support. With Finti, flexibility is key. Access your account and manage your business from anywhere, anytime using your smartphone or laptop. And guess what? Finti supports over 20 major world currencies, ensuring users from around the globe can easily navigate and utilize the platform. Don't see your currency? No problem. Our support team is here to assist you, customized to suit your business. Whether you're in the repair industry or looking for top-notch accounting and inventory management. We can even disable features you don't need, providing a personalized experience just for you. In conclusion, Finti is not just accounting software. It's a business companion designed to simplify your operations and boost your efficiency. Join the global community benefiting from Finty's powerful features. Subscribe now, use the exclusive 50% discount coupon, and let Finty elevate your business to new heights. Thank you for watching and happy managing.
I only want to say that they are only a type of communication, and there is nothing to worry about. Some of them work with 2 wires, some with 8 wires, and that's how they communicate and transfer data with each other. DMI, FDI, PCI, PCIe, SPI, LPC, SATA, USB, I2C, SMBUS. All of them are abbreviations of the names in front of them. For example, DMI is Direct Media Interface, or SMBUS is System Management Bus. And they are different types of communications among different components. I've mentioned them now, because for example if I2C is written on a line, it means that the line uses that communication and there is nothing else. There are other things you can realize from block diagram as well. One of them is, how many USB ports does this system have? Or how does each block connect to other blocks? As you see, fan is controlled by SMC. And SMC is connected to PCH by serial port. What is SMC? SMC is system management control that has an important duty, such as detecting pressing power key, keyboard backlight, controlling laptop board LED lights, detecting opening, closing laptop lid, managing battery charge, discharge, managing devices heat, controlling thermal sensors and fan in general. It receives data through different sensors of the device. Sensors such as SMC, light evaluation, and performs its duties. So we conclude that SMC is one of the most important parts of MacBook board, and it communicates with PCH or other chips through I2C and SMBUS interfaces. I should say that I'll fully analyze this block in the next videos. But in this video I'm just giving a brief explanation. As you see, SD card, trackpad, Bluetooth are connected to PCH USB port by USB hub. And they work with USB interface. This device has a mainboard, and a small mini board, which are connected to each other with a connector. And the components of a mini board are shown as well, such as Hall sensor, which is the proximity magnetic sensor. And its duty is to detect closing laptop lid. As you see, it is connected to SMC. And camera connector, a USB port, and audio IC are on the mini board. And you can see how the rest of the components on the block diagram communicate with other components or chipsets.
یا با قطعات دیگه ارتباط دارن.
I should say that this is the general view of the communications.
نمای کلی ارتباطات
And you can see details of each component in its own page.
مورد نظر هر قطعه مورد بررسی قرار داد.
Let's check page 3.
برای بررسی صفحه سوم
I can almost say that it is the most practical page for laptop repairmen,
برای تعمیرکار لپتاپ
which shows how each voltage is generated.
ولتاژ رو نمایش
But it is unfortunately not available on some schematics.
در بعضی از شماتیک‌ها موجود نیست.
But as general structure of this part is the same in all devices,
در تمام دستگاه تقریبا مشابه هم است.
we can generalize it to all of the devices. You only need to find a schematic that has this page,
یک شماتیک این بخش رو مورد بررسی قرار بدیم.
and then you need to analyze it.
شماتیکش وجود داشته
And after fully comprehending this part, repairing a MacBook device is going to be easy for you. The problems can be divided into two categories in repairing laptops.
دو دسته تقسیم
Problems related to power voltages of different components, and problems of data or signals, and the data transferred between them,
که بینشون رد و بدل میشه.
which I'll talk about in other parts.
دیگه به طور کامل بحث خواهیم کرد.
For fully understanding different circuits' power voltages in MacBook,
قسمت تغذیه مدارس مختلف در لپتاپ
you should have a complete understanding of this page of schematic.
داشته باشید.
Before starting to talk about this part,
این قسمت رو شروع کنم
it's necessary to talk about the information that exists on this page.
موجود در این قسمت بدم.
The first thing is the different states of a device.
وضعیت‌های، مختلف یک دستگاه
For example, the device is shut down, run or standby,
یا در حالت روشن قرار داره یا
or each of these states is specified with a specific mark,
با یک علامت مشخص
as you see in the table,
تو این جدول مشاهده می‌کنیم.
which is known as SPS.
SPS معروفه System Power States.
MacBook devices usually divide into 8 parts.
غالباً به 8 قسمت تقسیم میشن.
G3H and S5 are for times that the device is shut down,
به طور کامل خاموشه
as you see,
که مشاهده می‌فهمید.
or G3S is the state that is a passage from shutdown to run.
که حالت گذر از حالت خاموش به روشنه.
This state can only be seen in some of the devices,
بعضی از دستگاه قابل مشاهده
and it's not something general.
که چندانی نداره.
S4 state is standby,
S4 که وضعیت استاندارد
and S1 to S3
S1 و S3 S1 تا S3 در واقع
are when the device is asleep,
دستگاه در حالت اسلیپ قرار داره.
and at the end, S0 state in which the device is running.
که دستگاه به طور کامل روشنه.
When you press power key,
وقتی دستگاه خاموشه
while a device is shut down,
پاور رو فشار
these states start changing towards S0.
به سمت S0 شروع به تغییر می‌کنه.
At first, the device is in S5 or G3H state,
وضعیت S5 یا G3H
and then they start changing towards S0.
سمت S0 شروع به تغییر می‌کنه.
What is the usage of these phrases?
اصطلاحات کاربردی برآمده.
As you see, the usage is that.
شما مشاهده
Let me zoom in on one voltage direction.
من زوم کنم خدمتتون.
By reading the written stuff of the directions, you can realize in what time the voltage should be generated. For example, let's check a main voltage, which is PPBUS_G3H. It means that this voltage needs to be present even when the device is shut down, meaning it needs to be present in S5 or G3H state. And if this voltage was absent when the device is shut down, it would mean that there is a problem in here. Let me give you another example. PPVCORE_S0_CPU_reg voltage. As you see, S0 is written in here, which means it needs to be present when the device is on. So this voltage won't be present when the device is shut down. If you check other lines, You can realize that, in what times the voltages need to be present or absent. These abbreviations are mostly used for voltages, and its concept might change for signals. Let me give you a simple example. I'll talk about everything in detailed way in future videos, but in this video, I'll talk about them in general and give some examples. For example, PM_SLP_S4 means that it is the passage signal of the device from S4 state towards S3. PM_SLP_S3 is the time that the device passes from S3 state towards S0. And this signal definitely doesn't get generated in S3 state. It only applies to the signals. But for voltages, you can generalize that. The voltages will be generated in the state that is written for them. Next example, PP5V_S0_FET means that this voltage is present in S0 state, and it would be absent before that. The second thing I can tell you about this page is that how to distinguish the main voltages from the signal voltages. What does this mean? It means there are some voltages that provide voltage of a component or a circuit, which are called main voltages. But there are some voltages that play the role of a signal, meaning they command a component to do some particular duties, or they inform other components that main voltages are generated. PP letters are used in the beginning of the names of main voltages. For example, PPBUS_G3H is a main voltage, which provides the voltage of other components. PP letters in the beginning of the name of the voltage indicate that it is a main voltage. And the other thing I want to say is how to detect the value of a voltage. As you see, PP3V3, what does 3V3 mean? It means 3.3 volts. So this is how to display voltage value in schematics. Or PP5V is 5 volts, which is the main voltage. But if it is only 1, P, like P3V3S5_PGOOD, it means it's a signal. And this one is PGOOD signal, which shows that 3.3 volts is properly generated in S5 state. So this signal shows that if 3.3 volts is generated properly or not. If this signal gets pulled up, it means that the IC generated 3.3 volts properly. So you can easily understand the written stuff on a schematic by knowing these two things. For example, P5VS3_N is an activator signal which commands IC to generate main voltage, 5 volts, in S3 state. As you see, So we can realize that when the device is shut down, 5 volts won't be present.
ولت ما در زمانی که سیستم خاموش است ما ولتاژ 5 رو نخواهیم داشت.
In other words, 5 volts won't be present in S5 state.
ولتاژ 5 ولت ما در زمان خاموش بودن سیستم یا همان S5 وجود ندارد.
So it will only be generated in S3 to S0 states.
وضعیت S3 تا S0 تولید میشه.
Let me give you another example.
خدمتتون عرض کنم.
PP3V3_S5_reg
5 underline reg
is the main voltage, 3 volts, which will be generated in S5 state.
S5 تولید میشه.
Meaning, this voltage needs to be present even when the device is shut down. Important note, these examples are for the schematic that I'm working on,
این مثال‌ها مربوط به این شماتیکه که ما داریم روش کار
and the voltages names or states might differ in other schematics.
یک نام دیگه یا در یک مرحله دیگه تولید شه.
So in each schematic, you need to check
شما باید بررسی کنید و ببینید که مثلا
in what state and with what name does each voltage get generated.
و با چه نامی تولید میشه.
I will try to give examples of schematic of other devices in other videos,
مثالایی هم از شماتیک‌های دستگاه دیگه
so you'll understand that they are generally similar,
مسئله یکیه.
and they're not very different from each other.
با هم دیگه نداره. پس با من همراه باش.
So you somehow know how to read the written stuff on voltage directions.
نحوه خوندن نوشته‌های روی مسیرهای ولتاژ تا حدودی آشنا شدید.
Let's check page 3 now.
صفحه سوم شماتیک بپرد.
As I said before,
قبلا گفتم
you'll get familiar with how different voltages of this device get generated.
تولید ولتاژهای مختلف در این دستگاه آشنا
As you see, input voltages of adapter enter through this segment.
از آداپتور از این قسمت وارد میشه.
And the voltage is 14.5 volts,
همونطور که مشاهده میکنید 14.5 ولت خواهد بود.
and it passes through a fuse.
عبور میکنه و الی آخر.
I'm not going to analyze this block in this video. I will only talk about the blocks generally, and I will analyze them in the next videos. One of the most valuable differences of designing Apple platforms compared to other platforms, like Asus or Compal, is that they have accurate and diverse test points. Let me show them on this page as an example. In different blocks that current and voltage are checked, and their accuracy is checked, which are specified by these circles. The A circles are for testing intensity of passing current through the point, and V circles are the points that voltages are sampled. And are sent to devices SMC, and if they get confirmed by SMC, the process of generating voltages will be continued. On this page, you can also see what voltage does each component generate, and in what state, and what are the prerequisites for generating that voltage, and on what page of the schematic does the component's block diagram exist. Let's check U7600IC as an example.
U7600 همونطور که مشاهده می‌کنید اگه مورد بررسی قرار بدیم
Some information are written inside this rectangle. As you see, this IC monitors the process of generating 1.05 volts, and the part number of the IC is ISL95870. This IC uses main voltage, PPBUS_G3H, for generating the voltage, which occurs in the 15th stage of the process of turning on system. This IC turns on by PP5V_S0_CPU_VCCIOS0. And what does PP5V_S0_CPU mean? 5 volts main voltage,
اصلی 5
which is
ولت
generated in
که
S0 state,
سیستم تولید میشه
and it starts working when it receives CPU VCCIOS0_N command in stage 21,
شروع به فعالیت
and it
می‌کنه.
generates
در
PPCPU VCCIO_S0_reg in stage 22.
CPU VCCIO S0 رو تولید میکنه.
And after IC tested sample voltage,
تست نمونه ولتاژ تولیدی خود که همون CPU VCCIO S0 رجه
it generates CPU VCCIOS0_PGOOD command
پی گود رو تولید میکنه
and sends it to SMC.
SMC میفرسته.
And when current is drawn from this voltage,
کشی از این ولتاژ
SMC samples intensity of passing current
در جریان عبوری
of R7640 resistor,
R76640
and it monitors and checks if CPU VCCIOS0_PGOOD voltage is properly generated or not.
شده یا خیر.
I repeat that the analysis of this block is going to be presented as a video.
ویدیو در خدمت شما عزیزان قرار خواهد گرفت.
The next block is BOM config,
بعدی قسمت بوم کانفیگ
which shows differences of different revisions of the board,
مختلف بورد رو بهمون نشون میده.
and it doesn't have a practical usage in repairing.
تعمیرات کاربرد خاصی برامون
The only
نداره.
usage of this block is
تنها قسمتی که ممکنه در این بخش کاربردی باشه واسه
the
ما
list of programmable components of the board.
قطعاتی که در بورد قابل پروگرام کردن هستن در اینجا مشخص میشه.
As you see, U3690, U4900, and U6100 ICs are on the list of this board.
U4920 و U6120 دلیل نیست قرار دارن.
As sometimes programming some components needs to be performed,
موقع نیاز به پروگرام کردن پیدا میکنیم.
you can realize what components are programmable through this list.
چه قطعاتی قابل پروگرام کردن هستن.
The next part is function test,
فانکشن تست
that shows where to test different signals.
سیگنال‌های مختلفی رو که در چه نقاطی میشه ازشون تست گرفت.
And as we use board view
در کل از اونجایی که ما از بورد
for finding different blocks of a board,
مختلف یه بورد استفاده می‌کنیم.
this page wouldn't be helpful in repairing either.
کاربرد توی تعمیرات نخواهد داشت.
And the next part,
قسمت بعد
I can almost say that this is the most practical page after power diagram.
پاور دیاگرام کاربردی ترین
In MacBook Schematics,
این صفحه است.
which is called power aliases,
صفحه پاور الیاسز
or nicknames of power and signal.
نام‌های مستعار پاور و نام‌های مستعار سیگنال,
which are shown on 2
دو
pages.
صفحه نمایش داده میشن.
A voltage is written differently in different blocks of a schematics,
در جاهای مختلف تغییر کنه.
which you'll get to know them on this page.
شما با اون آشنا میشید.
For example, main voltage PPBUS_G3H
G3H
changes to PPBUS_S0_LCDBKLT.
CDBKLT.
And as you see, this voltage changes to other name.
نام‌های دیگه تغییر نام میده.
And depending on the block that a voltage is used,
از یه ولتاژ استفاده میشه.
the name of the voltage changes as well. For example, when PPBUS_G3H is used for LCD backlight,
G3H وقتی برای بکلایت LCD استفاده میشه
it changes into PPBUS_S0_LCDBKLT.
تغییر نام میده.
Let's assume you're looking for the generator of PP3V3_S5_VMON voltage. And by checking this page, you can realize that it is the main voltage PP3V3_S5_reg, which has its own generator. You can also see on which pages of the schematic you can find the voltage. For example, PP3V3_S5_VMON is on page 62. And voltages are also categorized on this page. For example, the voltages that are always present, and voltages like 3.3 volts and 5 volts. And on signal aliases page,
signal aliases هم
You'll see different names of signals.
بخش سیگنال آشنا میشین.
I should say that you can find signals in different parts of schematic, and you can realize it by searching one signal.
یه سیگنال در شماتیک به این نکته پی خواهی برد.
Next, parts of schematic are related to connection details, the way voltages get generated, and small components on the board that might differ in each device, but they are similar in general.
یک کلیت مشترک دارن.
And that is the process of generating voltages.
ساختار پیشرفت رو به نحوه تولید ولتاژ است.
In a way that you're going to see the main components on the first pages,
اول با قطعات اصلی آشنا میشید.
like CPU, RAM,
و غیره.
and how they communicate with other components,
ارتباط دیتایی آنها با سایر قطعات متوجه میشید.
and what voltages the components need for working. And by scrolling down and going on to the end of schematic, you'll see how voltages get generated. So I can briefly say that you'll see datas on the first pages, the managing components in the middle of the schematic, and voltage generators at the end. So these were the generalities of schematics. Now let me talk about small details that you can only see on Apple platforms. You can see details of even small components of Apple products on the schematic. For example, in the first line of details of resistors, you can see PCB code. And on the second line, resistance value. The next lines, error percentage, power, type and size. Or for capacitors. On the first line you can see PCB code. On second line, its capacity. And on the next lines, error percentage, working voltage, type and size. Sometimes some components are written on the schematic but not placed on the board.
شما در شماتیک می‌بینید که یه قطعه هست ولی روی بورد وجود نداره.
Which are specified by no stuff.
با نوشته no stuff روشون مشخص میشن.
For example, as you see, this component is on the schematic. But as no stuff is written, you can realize that it is not placed on the board. But the PCB pad might be on the board. But the component is not placed. As I talked about the written stuff of the voltage names earlier. And you are familiar with reading them. You can see that the voltage values are written under the voltage lines. And even the size of PCB direction of the voltage is accurately written as well. The exact block of some components on the boards are shown on the schematic. But I should say that these are not very practical. Because most Apple platforms have board views. And you can easily use them to find specific components or directions. I'll talk about how to use board view in the following. Another thing is that in signal or data directions, they show the input or output signal of components with a pointing in out arrow. So this is how to find out whether it's an input signal or output. For example, this is an input signal as the arrow is pointing in. Input signal of this component, and this is output signal. So these were the generalities of Apple board schematics. And the small details that I haven't mentioned exist on boards of other brands as well.
در باقی پلتفرم‌ها وجود داره.
And if you would like to learn more about them,
عزیزان علاقه‌مند باشن با آنها آشنا بشن.
you can check out schematic reading videos of the website. And you can learn more about reading and understanding schematics. So you can refer to them and gain more knowledge. As I said in the beginning of the video, we are preparing the analysis of different blocks of schematics one by one. And we will present them to you. For example, the important block of SMC, charging circuit, will be analyzed in categorized and accurate way and will be presented to you. So let me tell you a general structure for those tutorials that all use to analyze the concepts. I'll analyze power diagram in the next video.
قسمت پاور دیاگرام رو مورد تحلیل و بررسی قرار
And
میدم و
I'll teach you different parts of block diagram step by step and analyze its different blocks accurately.
به صورت دقیق با هم دیگه بررسی میکنیم
And show you how they work.
بخش‌های مختلف رو میبینیم.
Let's check the board view now.
میریم سراغ بورد.
But since this software is used for all platforms,
کار با این نرم افزار بین تمام پلتفرم‌ها عمومیت داره.
and talking about it will only be repeating what you already know, I won't talk about it so much,
یعنی زیاد بهش نمی‌پردازم.
and I'll just give you a brief explanation.
فقط یه توضیح کلی خدمتتون عرض کنم.
Board view is a file
فایلی که از یک مادربرد که به ما نشون
which shows us where each component is placed on the board,
کجای بورد قرار
and the directions are also shown.
مسیری که روی شماتیک برای مشخص شده در روی بورد برای اون طراحی کردن.
So by the help of a board view, we can see where components are.
که قطعه مورد نظر ما کجا
Or when you want to test a specific signal,
می‌خوایم تست
you can find the blocks that these signals are available through board view.
سیگنال دسترسی داریم برای تست رو پیدا کنیم.
Another usage of a board view.
که board view میتونه برای ما داشته باشه اینه که
For example, a direction is sulfated due to water spilling,
آب خوردگی
and it's damaged,
رفته
and the component is missing. Using the board view, you can see what the missing component is.
اون مسیر رو ببینین از چه قطعه به چه قطعه متصل هست.
And what PCB code does that component have, and check the schematic to see what component it is. And you can easily find the alternative direction for the damaged one.
مسیر جایگزین و یا قطعه رو پیدا کنید و تعویض کنید.
I use BoardViewer software to open BoardView files
BoardView هم از نرم افزار BoardViewer استفاده میکنم
because it supports almost all formats of BoardView files,
تمام فرمت‌های مختلف فایل‌های BoardView ساپورت میکنه
and it has a simple and more user-friendly environment.
پسندتر و روونتری داره.
Let me explain about different parts of BoardViewer software.
نرم افزار BoardViewer رو بهتون مختصر توضیح میدم.
You can view or check the board view in your desired way.
بورد شما طبق این عکس روبوتون قرار گرفته باشه که مشکلی
Using right and left rotate and horizontal and vertical options.
بورد رو بچرخونید یا قرینه کنید یا هر چیز دیگه از این فلش ها میشه استفاده
For example, click on View,
همچنین از قسمت View
flip board horizontally, vertically, and flip the board horizontally or vertically.
اساس محور افقی عمودی برای شما قرینه میکنه.
And top, bottom,
قسمت بعدی تاپ و باتومه که
which shows two sides of the board, top of the board and bottom of the board.
زیر بورد
And these are zoom and some simple stuff
زوم و
that don't need explanation.
توضیح نداره.
The only important part in BoardViewer is the next thing that I'm going to talk about,
تو نرم افزار BoardViewer
which is parts. If you want to find a specific component, you need to select it on this list,
از این قسمت قطعه رو انتخاب میکنین.
and the software will show you where it is.
برای شما روی بورد محل قرار گرفتن اون قطعه رو نشون میده.
And if you click on the component, you can see its pins on the right side of the page.
قسمت تب پارت
In this case, there are two pins,
تعداد پایه‌های اون قطعه رو
You can
می‌بینید
also
و
see where the
هر
pins are
پایه
connected to.
به کدوم قسمت وصل شده رو مشخص
For
می‌کنه.
example,
پایه
pin 2 is
فرضاً
GND, and the other pin is connected to SATAMUX_N_L. And to see to which components that pin is connected to on the board,
این به چه پایه‌هایی از قطعات دیگه متصل هست.
you need to click on the pin
وقتی روی اون پایه کلیک می‌کنید
and go to the upper tab, Net.
که کلیک بفرمایید
You can see that the pin is connected to this IC on the other side of the board, which is U4510, and you can check it on the schematic
توی شماتیک مورد بررسی قرار بدین که
and see what the pin is and what its duty is. So as I said,
همونطور که عرض کردم خدمتتون
if a component is missing from a board or a direction is sulfated, you need to clean it, and then you can easily see to which pins it was connected
ببینین که به چه پایه‌ای متصل
and what its duty is,
چه کاری انجام میداده.
and what component it was in general. The rest of the things are not very practical, such as highlight part names, and by clicking on that, it highlights the component's PCB code.
مختلف رو به صورت شفافتر میتونین ببینین.
Other parts include options,
قسمت‌های دیگه که میتونین مشاهده کنین قسمت
which are the settings of the software,
تنظیمات نرم افزار است،
language,
زبان سیستم
and remember Windows position.
Windows position که
That remembers how you checked the board view the last time you used it.
این بورد ویو رو در چه حالتی مشاهده کردین.
In software,
شما
options,
تو قسمت تنظیمات نرم افزار
you can see that.
میتونین مشاهده بکنین
What
که
formats
چه
can this
فرمت‌هایی
software choose and
میتونین
open?
نرم افزار انتخاب کنین و چه فرمت‌هایی با چه فرمت‌هایی باز کنه این نرم افزار رو.
So you don't need to open file when you run the software. And by double-clicking on the board view files that have these extensions, the software opens them. So the board viewer software has nothing special left. And the only practical parts are part and net, which shows you the specifications of components and how they get connected to other blocks of boards. So this was how to work with board viewer software. And a brief explanation. One thing that I forgot to mention in the beginning of the video is that Apple laptops can be divided into two categories. The first category is the ones with magnetic chargers, meaning they have magnetic adapter cable heads. And the second category is the laptops that use USB Type-C for charging laptops, meaning the adapter head is USB Type-C. And they are newer devices, as their charging circuits are completely different from magnetic ones. I'll analyze laptops with magnetic adapters first.
تحلیل و بررسی که انجام میدیم مربوط به دستگاه که آداپتورشون مگنتی هستن می‌پردازیم.
And after completing that, I'll analyze laptops with USB Type-C adapters. So all the things I've said in this video is related to the devices with magnetic adapters. And later I'll talk about devices with USB Type-C adapters.
دسته دوم بعد از کامل کردن این قسمت مورد بررسی قرار میده.
This was the introductory video which I hope you liked. Thanks for watching Smiley Face.